Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Joe Knowledge YouTube channel. My name is Joe, and I am your host. And today, once again, we're talking men's Kansas State basketball. Big win, huge win at home against KU, the number 2 team in the nation. This was a good game. Very strong performance by Kansas State, coming back from the loss to TCU earlier in the week. So we kind of talked about, hey, how was this team going to respond? They responded very well. Take a look at the stats. For KU, I think the big names here were Jalen Wilson, higher scorer in the game, scored 38 points, 9 rebounds. He was tough to stop. Okay. Their other two main scorers, let's see, KJ Adams and Grady Dick. I think, we did a pretty good job of keeping them at bay, especially in the first half. That first half, K-State began to pull away, and it almost looked like there could be potentially a blowout here. I think, we kind of felt like KU would try to come back, and they would, right, as we see later in the game. They've played a lot of close games this year, and this was one of them. A win into overtime. All right, K-State wins in overtime. For K-State, a huge game from Desi Seals. Desi Seals has a huge game. What's interesting is that Desi Seals has a big game. Marquise Noel does not. If you look at the stats, Marquise only scores 4 points. He's got 7 assists, but he only scored 4 points. So they did a really good job on him. We needed someone to step up in this game, and Desi Seals did it. I think he's probably always had the capability of doing this, but with Marquise Noel established as a starter, in many games he's kind of coming off the bench, right? So this was a game where he was needed and he came through. Another big game by Keontae Johnson. He scores 24 points, has 8 rebounds. If you watch the game, the offense pretty much ran through him. He got several shots. Looks like he got 17 shots. At the free throw was 8 for 9. So very good free throw shooter. He gets into the lane and drives to the basket quite often. So of course, with that type of game, he's going to have to be a good free throw shooter, and he is. Let's see what we got. Tomlin had a very nice game. Double-double, 15 points, 10 rebounds. And every one of those was needed. He did a great job. Let's see. If you look at the game flow, you can kind of tell how in the first half, K-State began to assert itself. Looking at the play here in the video there, 19-12, K-State would go up by as many as 14 points in the first half. We can see there, obviously, KU began to come back in the second half and made it very close. But K-State was, you could argue that K-State was the better team throughout the game, and KU needed to pull some extra effort out to make this a game. One of their starters, Kevin McClure, is interesting. He had 0 points, and he averages 10.2 points a game. So he's one of their guards. K-State did a pretty good job on holding him up. So that was nice. The game seemed like it was very evenly matched. If you look at the team stats, same number of shots, right? The field goal percentage was almost equal. KU hitting a little bit better at 43.3%, but K-State there at 41.7%. Same amount, almost the same number of 3-pointers made. KU shot a lot more, but very even there. The difference was even look at the rebounds, 38 rebounds each. Okay, so this turned out to be a very even game. Just take a look at the video there. You see how K-State's up pretty good there. KU's gonna start coming back, but K-State asserted itself at the beginning of the game. Very good game planning, obviously, by the coaching staff to come out very strong and take the lead on the number 2 team in the nation. So conference standings here, K-State takes the lead, first place, Big 12 right now, sitting at 5-1. Iowa State's going to be a tough out. Okay. We've already lost to TCU, but they're sitting at 3-2. So K-State is sitting at the top of the Big 12 right now. Okay. And again, I always say, these things can turn quickly. So we've had a lot of success up to now, and we just have to keep getting better. We have to keep getting better. We cannot be content with the performances that we've had. I watched the press conference, the pregame press conference that Jerome Tang had with the press, and the press seems to, they're the press, right? So they're asking all these questions about KU and the rivalry. They're asking about, this big game and how him as a coach is going to prepare the players for this big game against KU. And his answers were obvious, to me they were obvious from a coach, but he's making it not about the magnitude of the game. Okay, his message is, this is just another game in conference play that we need to win. Okay, and it made perfect sense as a coach, but I think fans tend to want to make this KU game into something different than any other game. And of course, right, it's KU, K-State. Okay, so we're in the same state and there is a rivalry there. Okay, but obviously as a coach, you want the coach to not do that. You don't want the coach to come into a game and somehow change his game plan to, potentially be something that his team is not, and in preparation for some rivalry that really has nothing to do with the actual game itself. Let's keep it real here. The rivalry is for the fans. We get hype about the rivalry and the history and how these teams have played in the past, but okay, that matters not for a coach playing in a game today. Okay, that doesn't matter at all. So obviously his answers were, we're going to play this game as it's the next game up. We're not going to do or think of this as anything different. I think that obviously works well for the players. You don't want the players to somehow, get psyched out over this big game that's not really a big game if you look at, the season as a whole, but it is a big game if you look at the fan base and the fact that it's an in-state rival. Okay, so that's one piece I kind of want to bring up. Also, when we talk about being a rival, and this was another question that came up, I think people will take offense. Some people will take offense to how Jerome Tang kind of addressed KU as not, he didn't really see them as a rival because K-State has not really done anything to make it a rivalry. K-State loses to KU even at home most years, right? And I don't know, for the past umpteen years, K-State has been beaten by KU on its home floor and in Lawrence as well, right? So can you really say it's a rivalry? So let's kind of look at this a little bit, okay? Definition of a rivalry. Let's look at the definition. So a rival, all right, is a person or thing competing with another for the same objective or for superiority in the same field or activity. All right, so you could argue that we are competing for superiority maybe in the Big 12 or, maybe in the state of Kansas, right? It's kind of a Kansas thing. So you could think of it that way. But it depends on who you ask, right? Because if you look at a rivalry, okay, and this is debatable, right? But some might say in order for the rivalry to persist, rather than resulting in perpetual dominance by one side, it must be a competitive relationship among equals. Okay. Basically asserting that it's necessary in order for the rivalry to exist, it has to be competitive. And that's debatable. All right. So I think that's where Jerome Tang was going, right? He's saying, look, this is not competitive. So can you really call it a rivalry? Well, maybe if you look at the in-state rivalry, because it's two schools that are in the same conference and in the same state. So that is something that you can call an in-state rivalry. But unfortunately, if K State is losing every year, is there any question, right, of as to how the competition is going to play out in most years? And I think that's where Jerome Tang is going with this. All right, so that's one piece I kind of want to talk about. The next thing is the FKU chant. All right, and if you saw towards the end of the game and in the post game press conference, Jerome Tang tried to address that a bit and his dislike of it. He does not like it. That's something. Hey, I'm a fan. All right, I've been to several games. Okay, and as a student, when I went there, that's something that I surely partook in. Okay, I think that it's something that you know as an older adult, I don't like it either. In my opinion, it comes from a position of losing. All right, it comes from it. To be honest, it's a frustrated loser's position. It basically shows that you don't really know how to win in a particular competition with a particular team, and when you do, you almost don't know how to act. Right? That's what it looks like. You have to think of, even though us as fans, we're not in the game, we're not playing the game. So, I don't know if you can call it, true sportsmanship, right? Because if you're playing the game, there's a level of sportsmanship and conduct that one needs to display. And obviously, as a player, something like that is not acceptable. But I think, in my opinion, fans should be held to the same standard as a player when it comes to things like that. And it's a matter of sportsmanship. Okay, it's unsportsmanship like to do those types of things when you win or lose in competition. Hey, at the end of the game, we shake hands and we go our merry way. Now, obviously, we're gonna talk shit, right? We're gonna talk stuff. It's okay to talk trash. That's okay. But I think that you have to keep it respectful because, at the end of the day, this is a game. It's a game, okay? It's competition and it gets heated, but it is a game. So I think sportsmanship comes into play when it comes to this FKU type of chant. I think over time it's going to end as I think the relationship between the teams become a little, more competitive, and I think that's what we're gonna see. The game kind of ended there. You kind of saw how it played out. K-State wins in overtime. One thing I kind of wonder is, why storm the court? Why storm the court? You've got two ranked teams, ranked 13 and ranked number 2, right? This is not a championship game. This is not a game that decides the Big 12 championship. This is not a game that really decides anything other than the current week's, standings. Okay, why storm the court? I get that it is an in-state rivalry. I get that, but I think, and this is going to come later, I think there's a culture here that needs to be developed, and I think winning does that. Winning is going to develop a winning culture. But when you have a winning culture, you don't storm the court when you win big games against good teams. I think you begin to expect those, and over time, K-State will begin to expect those, especially as ranked number 13. K-State's already beaten Texas at number 6. Baylor ranked when we beat them. Okay, so we're going to play and we're going to beat ranked teams. We have to get used to that. We can't. I know KU is ranked number 2. I know they're the premier team in our league, and I know they're they won the championship last year, and they're a really good team. But let's get used to winning these games. Okay, that is the pedigree of a true championship team, and I'm not talking about just the Big 12 championship. I'm talking about national championship caliber teams. they don't rush the court on during games like that. Okay, they just win games and go home and continue to win games. K-State, if K-State wants to get to the next level, which I think Jerome Tang is looking to take them to, I think they have to get rid of the things like the FKU chant. They have to actually make this KU team a true rival, which means it's competitive. And let's not storm the court, when we win big games. Let's just walk off like we should have won anyway, and you'll see us do this again. So, great game. Again, K-State now sits at the top of the Big 12. Now K-State clearly has a target on its back. Big game coming up against Texas Tech. Okay, we can't overlook Texas Tech. They're sitting at 0-6, 10-8 overall, but they played KU very close in the game a few weeks back. Okay, we've talked about this. Every team in this Big 12 conference is going to be strong, and we got to be ready. All right. After Texas Tech, I believe it's Iowa State, and they're already looking really strong this year. KU beat them, but I think they went into overtime. Maybe not, but it was a very close game. So, hey, we got to keep this train going. This could be a very, very special year for K-State, but K-State has to continue to get better, which it appears that they are. They are getting better every week, but I think that has to continue in order for us to make a serious run at, I'm talking NCAA tournament, national championship. That's what we need to push for. Let's start thinking about ourselves, K-State basketball, K-State fans, as potential national championships. All right. Potential national champions. That's the mindset we need to have. So, all right, guys, that's all I got. Thanks for watching.